Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From beautiful Huntington Beach, California, on the HealthyLife.net radio network, heard in all 50 states and 135 countries, all positive talk radio. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com. Also coming to you live and on demand 24/7 over the last 10 years on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks on 26 global audio video platforms, audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, and the list goes on and on. In fact, we're very proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM and #2 on FeedSpot out of the top 60 and #2 on caringvillage.com. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Author and functional medicine expert and chiropractor, Dr. Thomas Polucki. We're going to talk about the chiropractor pros and cons, what to look for and what to look out for when choosing a chiropractor. But before we get started, I do want to thank my last week's guest. Get a grip on grip before it's too late. Hand and grip expert, Dr. Terry Zachary is the author of Great Hands, Great Life, and the inventor of the Handmaster Plus hand exercise system. He's a former professional golfer and sports chiropractor, and saw that dozens of repetitive grip injuries to fingers, thumbs, and wrists, carpal tunnel, etc. Great interview. Just a reminder, you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of our other 26 global networks that I mentioned earlier. All right, enough of that. Dr. Polucki, so great to have you on the Caregiver Dave show.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
And, I always like to ask my guests just who is Dr. Thomas Polucki and why was he placed on this earth?
Mark you off. All right. Well, I don't know about that, but I'll take a crack at it. So I grew up in a medical family, right? So it's my whole life. My uncle's a prominent psychiatrist. My mother runs an ICU. That's an intensive care unit at the local hospital. So I'm in the system. And in 10th grade, I am testing for Johns Hopkins Medical School, possibly the most prestigious medical school on the planet.
10th grade.
Around the same time, I wake up one morning and I can't move. It's called torticollis. It's a spasm in the neck and you are locked up. You're not going anywhere.
Oh my God.
So this was the one thing that my very conventional, conservative medical family thought, well, maybe the chiro whatever can do something about this. So I go. And the guy's nice enough. I don't know anything from anything. I don't look at him like a real doctor because, I'm surrounded by real doctors all the time. And this guy is not at a hospital. He's not in the medical building complex I'm used to going to. And I went there a lot because by this time I'm 15. I'm 15 years old. This is 40 years ago. I'm 15 years old, and I've already had 3 surgeries. I'm on 5 prescription medications year-round, plus countless over-the-counters. I still have daily symptoms, and sometimes they escalate into actual medical emergencies. And this is just my life. I think it's perfectly normal, growing up in the medical setting. I knew all the medical doctors, essentially on a first name basis for the first 15 years of my life. And so we go to this chiro guy, right? And it's interesting from the beginning, how he treats me, how he talks to me. And, but for whatever reason, I like the guy and I give him a chance. And very long story short, because I mean, this was completely different. Completely different. But in 1 year, going, it started off a couple times a week and then it tapered off. But within 1 year, I'm off all my lifelong medications. And this, again, is 40 years ago, and I haven't even taken an aspirin since. Now, I know that sounds cultish, especially in this society. There's a pill for every ill drama that we deal with every day, the nonstop bombardment of overwhelming information about take this pill for this problem, get this shot for this condition, get this surgical procedure. Everything else is pseudoscience or worse, right? So I got a lot of questions. In 1 year, this guy, who we didn't even consider a real doctor, has cured problems that up until that point, 15 years of top, and all due respect, really good medical care, wasn't able to do at all. So, we had some debate, some hot conversations around the dinner table about what the heck is going on here and why am I second guessing this golden ticket, like Charlie, Charlie and Willy Wonka, golden ticket to go to Johns Hopkins. Why am I even second guessing this? I mean, I'm throwing my life away by not doing this golden opportunity because they contacted me. It wasn't like I was scrambling, trying to make it happen.
You were like a Dookie Howser, so young and so brilliant, and yet so young with medical problems. Wow. Yeah,
I appreciate it, but I don't know that I'm that brilliant. I just was, I don't think I think I was genetically programmed to be a doctor. So it was in the system, it was in the pipeline. But when I saw such a dramatic difference, I had a lot of questions. Some people come to the realization, an epiphany, whatever have you, about what they're supposed to do. I never really felt that about medicine. I just thought it was the family business, right? So, but when I actually got better and I didn't need to take handfuls of pills every day, and I actually felt good. And, at 15, you're also coming into puberty, male maturity, all of that stuff. All of a sudden, I've got this whole new life. And I associate all of that with what this guy did for me. And I'd like to get into that a little bit.
Was your family impressed with this? Did that make believers out of the entire medical family you had?
Not initially, for sure. They had some doubts, and I did myself. I couldn't explain it well because at the time, hey, let's face it, we're old, right? At the time, there was no internet. Right. So all the information you got was either coming from the television or your medical doctor, or you had to go to like a university library, not even a local library. You had to go to like a university library to look stuff up. So I got questions. I'm asking my medical doctors why they never sent me to a chiropractor. Believe it or not, at the time, they could have lost their license for doing it. It was a crime for a medical doctor to make a chiropractic referral up until, I can't remember the exact date, but it was like somewhere in the 80s, if you can imagine that.
Wow.
And so, there was that. Obviously, nobody told me all that. I didn't find out any of this stuff until I went to chiropractic school. And I didn't know that what most people, even today, now consider chiropractic. I didn't even know what that was about because the one that I went to was like what I do in my office. And Dave, you know how different that is than other chiropractors.
And I should say that I am a patient of yours for the last, 15 years. And I've gone to some chiropractors. they're so different. I mean, it's so amazing how each one has got a different little thing that they do. But I haven't met anyone who does what you do. In fact, others have hurt me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you have healed me.
Unfortunately, that happens. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, again, way too long a story short. Once I got to chiropractic school, I found out that most chiropractors aren't doing aren't doing what literally transformed my life and maybe made me decide to walk away from medical school to become a chiropractor. And the whole time, everybody's saying you're throwing your life away. I mean, my English teacher in 10th grade is like trying to have an intervention with me, saying how, what are you doing? Why would you consider this? And I didn't know at the time until, I got out and I started at school, and I realized that, well, there's a reason that a lot of people just can't get on board with this whole chiropractic thing. And even to this day, then this is, again, 40 years later, the average is only 10% of the population thinks chiropractic is a credible option for any condition, much less the most credible option of back problems.
Just curious, just curious, sorry to interrupt. Does it have a better reputation than acupuncture?
It is a little bit better. Acupuncture recently got accepted into, the whole scheme of things that covered California, how medicine has essentially become, the whole affordable care thing.
Sure.
So acupuncture got easily adopted into that, and that has changed a little bit, but the numbers aren't dramatically different. Chiropractic, oriental medicine, and physical therapy are still very low on the list, and they're some of them are making more leeway into the mainstream, but for the most part,
even physical therapy,
more people will listen to the commercials, because let's face it, the commercials bypass the medical doctor. They tell the patient what to do before they even walk into the medical doctor's office, and the patient is there asking for some kind of pill or procedure before they, even have a consultation. So, that's the state of healthcare in this country at this point.
Wow.
The medical doctors are essentially just checking a box and forwarding the patient's request onto the next level at this point. Our job is considerably different, because we're still working somewhat outside of that system, outside of that, just ask your doctor. Because when you just ask your doctor, the answer is almost always going to be either some kind of new medication or some test or some referral for a different kind of advanced level, either evaluation or management of their problem.
Well, our audience are, again, sorry to interrupt, but we've got only so much time. I want to get it all in there. But our audience are burned out caregivers, and many times 30%, these are the actual statistics from AARP, 30% of caregivers will actually die before their loved ones do, the ones who have the illness. And they're taking it on, and many more, the lucky ones who don't die, well, they just become sicker than the ones they care for, hospitalized typically, and eventually need a caregiver of their own. And so this is pretty bad. Only 10% of caregivers are what I would call healthy, and I'm one of them. And so having you on the show, you need to explain to them, why they would consider this. Maybe some of them are think that chiropractors are quacks or something. But you say that not all chiropractors are built the same. So what should we look for if we're going to try chiropractic, and what should we stay away from when we try?
Okay, as short as I can make this, look for reviews based on your concern. Don't just see that, they've got 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 reviews on this or that or the other, actually read them. Read the reviews, especially do a search within the review search engine of your particular concern. And then if
they have lower back pain, you'll do a search on lower back pain.
Yeah.
If you have constant headaches, do a search on constant headaches.
Exactly. So do that search first. And then if it looks good, make the call, see what happens, see what the scheduling process is like. And, it should be easy to get in to see a person. And, that first visit should look something like this. It should be a conversation with you and the doctor. And the doctor should ask you about your concerns, your challenges, your goals. And if it's about anything else, that should be a red flag. If they're already trying to convince you of 10 other things than what you walked in the door for, that should raise some concerns. So that should, and then the exam process, if it still looks like a good fit from there, the exam process should be some kind of measurable, objective criteria for determining, what the next step looks like. Whether it is, we're going right into a treatment and here's what to expect on this treatment. And by the way, informed consent is important. You want to know what the treatment is. Are there any risks associated? And not getting informed consent prior to any kind of a treatment is actually malpractice, and in some cases, criminal.
So how important is the bedside manner? Let's say we feel real comfortable with this guy. We like him like you liked your guy, or the guy's creeping me out. I'm my gut's, screaming, red flag, red flag. How important is just our reaction? Should we just ignore it or should we pay attention to it?
That's on a person by person basis. Some people have a better intuition. Some people have better street sense than others do. I do trust my gut. But I'm also highly critical. I am highly methodical and systematic and scientific and logical. So when my gut tells me something, I know it's just a connection that I'm not making, in the step-by-step process. But I've learned to trust my gut. Some people have better intuition than others. So you've got to know how credible your gut instinct is. But I'll tell you some red flags to look for. Confidence is attractive. Yeah. So you're looking for that, especially if you're scared, if you're hurting, if you haven't found any answers, if you're confused, if you're looking for some kind of solution to some kind of dilemma. You want to go somebody who's confident about their ability to help you, right? But the problem is, con men know this. Con men know all of the tricks, all of the bypassing your logical brain and going right into your emotional hot buttons so that they can sell you something that maybe not be even appropriate or what you asked for or good for you in any way. The big red flags to look out for is a polished sales approach that upsells you from whatever you went there for into some kind of an exchange where you are now going from whatever, a $300 visit to a $1,200 visit before you even know it. And then walking out the door with something like $800 of supplements that you didn't even ask for. And again, with the informed consent, if there's any physical contact, if there's any physical treatment, you need to know what that physical treatment is for, what it's supposed to do, what possible side effects might happen or might take place, and what to watch out for. And you have to literally sign the line that says, yes, I understand and I agree to proceed. I don't see a patient until they've gone through that whole process because it's a crime. It's a crime to do that. It's actually assault and battery.
in all 50 states?
Yeah. And so that's the main thing. Is the doctor talking to you, or is he trying to convince you of something that you're really not there for? Are you having an exchange? That is the main thing, more than anything else. Are they patient-centered is the
Right.
buzzword? Are they paying attention to what you really want and need and working a strategy to get you towards your goal? Or do they have a separate agenda that, they'll play on your fears and your concerns and your hopes to sell you something that you really didn't sign up for?
Yeah, that
And
makes a
it
lot of
can be
sense.
several $1,000s. Some of these guys are so good at this kind of manipulation, this psychic manipulation, that you don't even question it until the bill shows up. And then you're like, oh my God, what do I do? And the problem is that we feel so victimized by this process and so hopeful that, well, I've spent this money, let's write it out and see if my confidence in this person is a good investment, instead of being outraged, and calling the authorities. So many people, so many victims are like, oh, I don't know, maybe it was my fault, maybe I did something. Predators know how to manipulate, and it's in every profession, but when it's in healthcare, it's particularly heinous as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, hold that thought. We've got to take a break. We will be right back. Don't go away. Hi, it's Caregiver Dave Nassani. I have a unique opportunity to bring 14 burned out caregivers to a magnificent high-end training, mastermind, and wellness retreat and vacation in the billionaire gated community of Acapulco, Mexico. It consists of a one-on-one personal coaching session, followed by 6 Zoom coaching training and mastermind calls with other caregivers to brainstorm with. Then we top it all off with a free bonus 7-day-a-night wellness retreat and vacation in a beautiful Acapulco villa with all food and drinks by our on-site gourmet chef, preparing delicious gluten-free, sugar-free cuisine, and it's all included. Burned out? Need a vacation? For more information, go to caregiverdave.com and click Acapulco Getaway. Hey, welcome back to the Caregiver Dave Show. I'm Caregiver Dave Nassani, with my guest, Dr. Thomas Polucki, and we're talking about chiropractic, what to stay away from, what to look for, because not all chiropractors are built alike. How some chiropractors actually con men, and they know how to push all your buttons and what have you. So you talked about what we should look for, what we should stay away from. You talked a little about what we should expect on a first chiropractic visit.
Right.
Let's talk about you and what you do and how many others are out there like you, because you're the model of what we should look for in a chiropractor. But basically, out of all the thousands, millions, I don't know how many chiropractors are out there, how many are doing kind of what you're doing?
Approximately there are somewhere between 50 and 60,000 practicing chiropractors right now
in the country.
Let's just say, yeah. Because I don't know worldwide statistics. I just know what's relevant to me. Okay. So let's just say there's 50,000 chiropractors. Of that 50,000, maybe 5,000 are practicing what I would call specific chiropractic, where they're not twisting and cracking every patient who walks through the door for every condition at every age, at every, no matter what anybody goes there for, they're going to get the same manipulation.
That was my first chiropractor. That's
twist the hip, crunch, crunch, crunch on the back, twist the neck, maybe some hot pack and stim with that. That's what you're going to see in the overwhelming majority of chiropractic offices. Okay. And it's the lowest level of chiropractic out there, but some people make a very successful living at it. And I have to say, some people are helped with that. But about 100 years ago, researchers discovered that, that is very hit or miss methodology. There's not a whole lot of specificity. There's not a whole lot of patient focused care in that process. We want to try to measure what is, really going on with the patient, and what kind of minimal intervention can we do in order to produce a measurable result. And that was discovered nearly 100 years ago. And ever since, top researchers have abandoned that very low-level common chiropractic.
And I've found from my experience that it's temporary. I remember leaving the chiropractor's office when I lived in Burbank, and he'd adjust me and all of that. And like 30 minutes later, I find myself in my car trying to crack my neck because I feel tension again. So I says, well, I just got adjusted. This isn't permanent. This isn't, it's just too temporary,
Yeah, that's about it. And I don't want to get into, what I know as far as, I don't think that's a good idea for anybody ever. But that's a whole nother conversation. And it's
how many don't crack? What percentage of them don't do that cracking, do you think?
Well, it's probably in the neighborhood of, certainly less than 10% of chiropractors don't do general manipulation on every person every time.
So it's like finding a needle in a haystack, trying to find a guy who can really help.
Well, yeah.
Without twisting you into a pretzel.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like I said earlier, the most theatrical, the showman, the sideshow, snowmen, they used to call it, right? You know what I'm talking about? Did you see Elvis, the movie?
Yeah,
the Colonel was the snowman and Elvis was the showman.
Right.
So these snowmen, they tend to be the most famous, the most successful, the most viral in any profession. And when it comes to chiropractic, I see things that are downright scary to me. The viral videos of these half-naked women getting violently violated in a chiropractor's office, cranking on these spines. I don't know what they think they're actually working on, but the spine is kind of a delicate organ. And yet these are what, have 1 million video hits. Like, people want to see that. And my thing is,
girl in a bikini get adjusted, right?
Yeah. I believe it's like, a car accident. Everybody will slow down to look at a car accident, but nobody wants to be in a car accident. So the problem is, it's a self-propagating thing. The more viral these videos get, the more chiropractors who aren't really sure about what they're doing or the results, or they're not making enough money, we're like, oh, look, this is the way to be more successful. So it becomes more and more prevalent out there. And it's just a vicious cycle of, the celebrity driving the profession instead of the other way around.
Yeah. Let's talk about red flags. What we briefly touched on it, but what's the most serious red flag that we should stay away from or feel when we're visiting a chiropractor that we haven't made our decision yet if we want to stay with this guy?
I would say that if you're unknowingly agreeing to stuff that you wouldn't be able to defend in a courtroom, you should have some pretty serious reservations about that. When people get into these situations where all of a sudden there's a bunch of stuff going on, they're not really sure what's going on, but they're agreeing almost as a reflex instead of a thought process, that should be a huge red flag. Because that tells you that, your logical process is being subverted. You are very vulnerable to whatever suggestion that, this person is, manipulating you into.
So feeling manipulated, feeling intimidated, feeling I better not say anything or he's going to think I'm, whatever. Those kinds of things, which is a very typical thing in a con, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it happens in everything. It happens at the mechanic. It happens, at, when someone comes to do some work around your house.
True.
But it's something really, really disturbing when it happens in a doctor's office. And I'm not picking on chiropractic
Or an auto
because it
mechanic,
happens.
right? Same thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it happens. It happens in every profession. But I believe it is particularly disturbing when it happens in a healthcare setting.
Of course.
And so anytime that you're agreeing to stuff that you don't understand, that should be a big red flag. And the thing about, as long as they're not really cranking into people's spines, because I'm not a fan of that ever under any circumstance.
Or neck.
But as long as
neck is part of the spine.
Yeah, especially the neck. So as long as they're not doing that, and it is really just this charismatic faith healing, if you will, that's less dangerous than someone sticking a knife in your back or, giving you a lifelong prescription to some kind of toxic medication. So there's, little harm done with faith healing, except that, most people can't afford $1,000 or $2,000 hoax. They are going to a healthcare professional in order to get better, not to get some energy work done or some kind of supernatural healing. I'm a nuts and bolts guy. I am a geek. I spend an obscene amount of time researching this stuff and making sure that we are evidence-based, which means that I can walk into any courtroom on the planet and not have to worry about my defense for what I do with my patients. I don't know how these guys get away with it, with this, dog and pony sideshow carnival show, and nobody calls them on it. How these guys are not in jail is a mystery to me.
Yeah. Now, you and I were talking before the show about, you said, we looked up the statistic, it was 1/3 of chiropractors do this weird thing where you hold one thing with one hand and you hold your arm out with the other hand. He's pushing down on your arm. And if you can, keep your arm from being pushed down, then he's figuring, okay, that's no good for you. And if he can't, and so on, vice versa. Really 1/3 of chiropractors are out there. What do they call that? And something about how strong your muscle is, and they're making all their assumptions based on that.
Muscle testing is an accepted diagnostic criteria. Like if, let's say, the disc in the middle of your neck has been damaged and it's pushing on a nerve that's going down your arm, there are measurable muscle tests that say, how bad that damage is. So let's put that one on the back burner for a second. Muscle testing is real science.
Okay.
But this thing that you're talking about is not. The whole applied kinesiology, which is, loosely a term that is kind of general, but it is exactly what you said. It's, a treatment, whether it be an energetic treatment or a supplement treatment or a physical treatment, and the criteria for diagnosing and follow up, making sure that something has changed, is based on a scam. It's an absolute hoax. It's if that were real, it would be totally objective. When I do muscle testing in my office to document injury, I have a grip strength test that is a meter that you squeeze, and the meter says a certain number. Then I'll do a treatment or a series of treatments and see if that number changes. At no time am I pushing or pulling on the person while I'm running the test. That right there nullifies the scientific validity of the test.
Yeah.
And as far as the, strong reflex, weak reflex, that really is a matter of just pushing into a person's center of gravity or pulling away from it to make a weak or strong response. And any doctor that is using that to prescribe, to diagnose or prescribe or do anything, all due disrespect, shouldn't be in practice, should not be in practice.
So what else do caregivers need to know about chiropractors, not only for their loved one, but for themselves? A lot of caregivers are pulling and lifting their heavy patient, trying to get them in and out of bed, transferring them. And that's not too healthy on the back, is it?
No, not at all.
Are there ways they should be doing it instead of the ways that they're not doing it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, that's a whole ergonomics and,
like physical therapy, occupational therapy
conversation that has to be individualized to that person. Obviously there is information out there. Some of it's more credible than others, but what to expect from a chiropractor as far as this is concerned, if someone's brave enough to go to a chiropractor after everything that we've just exposed here, here's what you should be looking for: a measurable process. First of all, that it is based on their concerns and not being upsold to something completely different, and not some new bright and shiny with borrowed documentation about how effective this treatment is, because most of that stuff is bad science, BS for short, to begin with. And if the patient's concern doesn't have like several reviews, other patients' reviews that are very close to the patient's concern, right, then I don't find much credibility in anything any doctor out there is selling. The patient reviews specific to the patient's concerns, as far as I'm concerned, lets you know whether you're even in the right place, right?
Yes. Now we're up on our last break, and then we're going to come back for the home stretch. We're going to talk about reviews and how trustworthy they are, right? Because I don't know, maybe they can be manipulated or something. Maybe get all your friends to give a review. So we'll be right back. Don't go. Hey, everybody, it's Dave Nassani, otherwise known as Caregiver Dave. And I'm coming to you live from this beautiful Acapulco villa, which I like to say is the perfect prescription for caregiver burnout. And I have a unique opportunity to bring 14 burned out caregivers up here so that they can decompress and do all the things that they need to do. But this is just a bonus. It actually comes with the 6-month Zoom coaching program. It's a one-on-one consult with me, Caregiver Dave, to identify where you are and where you need to go. It's 6 monthly small group coaching sessions to smash any obstacles between you and your ideal vision of what a caregiver needs to be and caregiver success. You get my 3 free books and instructions on boundaries, grief, self-care, organization, asking for help, learning how to say no, avoiding burnout, avoiding depression, avoiding perfectionism, avoiding isolation, avoiding resentment, delegation, team building, how to have fun, how to have no guilt, the importance of gratitude, and after caregiving when you're no longer a caregiver. But this 7-day bonus is absolutely free. It comes with the coaching program that you pay for. And the food is all inclusive. I'm telling you, 7 days and 7 nights here is amazing. This is truly paradise. And I highly recommend it. For more information, go to caregiverdave.com. That's going to send you to my other website. And if you want a shortcut to get there immediately, just go to acapulcodave.com. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing you in Acapulco. And we're back on the final segment of the Caregiver Dave show with our guest, Dr. Thomas Polucki. So let's talk about reviews. Just how reliable are they, and where should we go for them? Yelp, Google, other places, MD.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different review sites out there. Some are more credible than others. I'm not a fan of Yelp, but Yelp is okay. It's an okay service. Here's what I don't like about Yelp. I have over 80 5-star reviews that they buried because they believe they're too good to be true.
You mean you've been
Seriously, I mean, you
censored?
know me, David. Yeah, I mean, I know your audience doesn't necessarily know me, but you know me.
Right, for 15 years.
These are very real reviews, but Yelp has decided that they can't be real, so they will not post them. They have, however, posted a handful of very negative reviews. And again, you know me, but people looking at Yelp don't have any idea who I am or what I'm about. So they're going to believe that those negative reviews, which are obviously never happened in my office, are real, are just as real as anything else out there. So that's what I don't like about Yelp so much. It is skewed towards the negative, and I refuse to pay them. I think that might have something to do with it. I don't advertise on Yelp, so that's a big thing. For many years, Google was the most credible search for reviews. However, they're starting to adopt a more of a Yelp approach. Really? They are restricting reviews. If you have more reviews than other doctors, they don't post your reviews. If another doctor is buying Google ads, it seems like all of a sudden they're moving up the ladder and you're staying still. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, everybody's in business. So those kind of reviews, you got to take a grain of salt with. It's not so much whether there are numbers or not. Again, search for your specific problem and see what the person has to say, because there are services out there that will generate reviews for you. But those reviews, you're going to see they are very not specific. They are very vague. They're like a clean office, and I didn't have to wait long, and the staff was so friendly, and they're so helpful. Or on the other swing of it, the reviews that, I hate to say it, but can be bought. The reviews are like, oh, he's fantastic, he's great, he's the best, and no real details on the situation or what they went through, or their journey through their healing process or anything like that. All of my reviews are organic. They're real people who have had real problems, in most cases for a really long time, have tried a whole bunch of stuff. And this was the first place that actually gave them the relief that they were working for. If you're seeing that in a review, you can pretty much be sure and to trust that review.
So not only chiropractic, but you're into functional medicine. Your wife had some issues, didn't she? Tell us about that. Yeah. If you can.
Yeah. So yeah, she's allowed me, so it's not, I'm not breaking any HIPAA rules. So I don't want to say how long ago, but it was a while ago. We started thinking about maybe having a family. So she gets the green light. She goes through all the tests, the blood tests, the ultrasound, all of it. Her OB-GYN says, you can have 10 kids if you want, you're perfectly healthy, right? 6 months later, she goes through the most hellacious menopause I've ever heard of, much less witnessed. She is sweating through 6 beach towels a night.
Whoa.
She's sleep deprived. She's totally incapacitated. And meanwhile, I got to go to work every day and try to take care of people and come back and take care of her all night long. So we're both exhausted after a year of this. And the obviously the medical tests aren't showing what needs to be done. We hear about bioidentical hormones and functional medicine. Actually, on Oprah, Suzanne Summers is talking about it, how she's gone to this miracle worker.
Yeah, we've interviewed
right?
her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's cool. So we try, and it doesn't do anything. Like my wife loves the practitioner. It's costing us an obscene amount of money, and within a year, she's back to sweating through 6 beach towels a night, sleep deprived, and can't function. We're about to lose everything. I'm about to go out of business. We're about to lose our house. We're about, we're about to get divorced. It's a nightmare, hellish nightmare. So last minute, we're at this mastermind group that I've been a part of for years. And I didn't know that sitting like 3 people away from me for the past several years is one of the founders of a functional medicine group that's over 300 practitioners in America. He founded it, right? So the head of the mastermind says, what's up? Because he can say, I'm a freaking zombie at this point. And he can see, and I tell him, I was like, listen, I think this is the last session I'm going to be able to come to. And I give him the quick synopsis of what I just said. He said, you got to talk to Reed. So I do. And within 5 minutes, he's making more sense than everything I've been through at this point for the past 2 years, the nightmare hell that I've been through for the past 2 years. He said, listen, you got to take the course. You got to take the tests. I will make it my personal mission to make sure that you see what this is about. And literally within 3 weeks of the protocol, my wife is 80% better.
Wow.
So again, really insanely long story short, I am now the medical director of that program. So I oversee over 300 functional medicine practitioners in America to make sure that they're ordering the right labs and that they're, giving their patients the right protocols in order to handle digestion issues, hormonal issues, whatever their issue is that it has fallen through the cracks with their conventional medical doctors.
Sure. Now you're in Southern California. How far do people actually drive or fly to see you?
We do have some patients come from other countries.
Really?
Italy is as far in that way as people come. We have had people fly in from Hawaii. I know you're a fan of Hawaii. Yeah. So we do have people come. When gas wasn't, $4 or $5 a gallon, we'd have people drive from up and down the coast in other states. I had one family drive. No, they flew. The whole family flew from Florida and spent nearly a month in a hotel for the whole family to get treated.
See, that just should tell people how wonderful your services are and how rare people can find someone like you. So I can't believe how fast our time is gone. And time is the enemy. I wish we had some more time. But thank you so much, Doctor, for coming on the show. You've been delightful and very enlightening. And for everybody out there, remember all our live shows become recorded pod and video casts on all your favorite networks. And remember my newly released book, Secrets from the Hammock, Uncommon Wisdom for Uncommon Times, is spreading wisdom all over the world, available wherever books are sold. Well, gotta go. We ran out of time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time, same channel. Bye-bye.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.